going to step back a bit and allow the young people of life to lead and moderate the conversation, okay? Because this is a youth summit, all right? And so even though there's adults supporting and helping to make this move very smoothly, we have some very phenomenal young people who are going to help lead us through this conversation. So I'm going to step back, but I'm going to invite a life leader, student moderator by the name of Faith Ramos to come up forward. All right, give it up for Faith. And then we also have a support moderator who would be Takayla Humphry. Okay, so give it up for Faith and Takayla. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Well, starting off, I would like to ask everyone if you could turn your screens off so that, we can see our panelists and make sure we're hearing them okay. And then also, I'll start by telling you guys a little bit about myself. I'm a Cass Tech graduate, and I'm an incoming freshman at Wayne State. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm wearing my Cass Tech pin. And, I didn't have a senior pinning, but that made me really excited to wear it today. So yes, now I'm gonna hand it over to Takayla if she's ready. I know she was having some technical difficulties. So Takayla, if you're there, I'll let you introduce yourself now. Okay. I don't think Takayla is with us right now. She's having some difficulties, but it's okay because I can lead the panel. I would like to take a moment to let each of our guests give us a 2-minute bio about the work that they do and things like that. So let's start with Anika Goss.
Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here. My name is Anika Goss. I'm the Executive Director of Detroit Future City. I want to thank Amy and Faith, our moderator, today. This is my second year participating, and I am really, really excited to be here. Detroit Future City is a nonprofit think and do tank in Detroit. So we focus on data and information to help people make folks like you understand what's happening in Detroit right now from a land use and economic development perspective, and culminate new ideas, strategies, and resources to make Detroit better for the future. Some of our data that that I think we're going to talk about today is the Detroit Strategic Framework, which is a 50-year vision for Detroit's future. Our Black Middle Class Report, which focuses on looking at Detroit's middle class as an economic engine for Detroit's future, and 139 square miles, which is a baseline data report. And our most recent report, which is on COVID-19. So I'm just really excited to have a conversation with you all today and to talk about Detroit and all of you and what your future is going to be here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anika Goss. I also just want to remind everyone that we will have a portion where we will take questions from the audience. So make sure you leave any questions that come to your mind in the chat, and we'll be sure to get those answered at the end. But moving forward with bios, I would like to move on to Marie Hocker to give us her intro.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be with all of you today. Engaging with our young people is literally one of my most favorite things in the world to do. I am the executive director of Grow Detroit's Young Talent, and my mission as executive director is to ensure that all youth in the city of Detroit have access to economic opportunity. And that's really what we do here at GDYT. I am a native Detroiter myself. I grew up on the west side around Finkel and Outer Drive. So I certainly can appreciate and recognize many of the unique challenges and also interests that the city of Detroit youth have, as I was a youth myself. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you all today. I'm so proud of the leadership development that you all are taking on as members of Life Leaders, and I look forward to continuing to engage with you on this panel. Thank you.
No, thank you. Next, we're gonna have Rico Razzo go.
Good morning, everybody. I apologize. I'm having technical difficulties with my screen, but just imagine me in a blue blazer and a blue powder blue dress shirt. I am currently the Deputy Director of Bridging Neighborhoods. We're currently working on the International Bridge Project. Spoke to a few of you last week about it. It's a $4 billion project. We were the recipients of $32 million in community benefit agreements to work on workforce development. And my focus is housing relocation for anybody that wasn't bought out by the state of Michigan. Residents in the Del Rey community have an opportunity to move to another part of the city where we renovate a house 100% for them. And we're also doing an environmental mitigation program where we're retrofitting about 120 houses where households along the service drive of I-75 are getting new windows, new HVAC, new central air to mitigate against noise and air pollution. Yesterday, we actually closed on our 40th home. So we've had 40 families from the Del Rey community move to other communities like Morningside, Southwest Detroit, Aviation Sub, Warrendale, and even Fitzgerald. So we have families moving all over the place. I've been with the mayor for the last 7 years since he got into office. I worked on his campaign in 2013, was appointed district manager over 107,000 residents in District 6. Ran the mayor's reelection campaign in 2017, ran for office myself in 2018, state representative, and now I'm back with the city as deputy director for Bridging Neighborhoods. So I got a lot of experience in city government, worked 5 years in professional youth development, and then worked in Major League Baseball. So I have a few different areas of work in my previous 11, 12 years. So thank you guys so much for having me, and I look forward to answering some questions on the panel.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Kenneth Kelly.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kenneth Kelly. I have the pleasure of serving as the chairman and CEO of First Independence Bank. First Independence Bank is the only minority-controlled financial institution headquartered in the state of Michigan. We're actually one of only 20 in the whole nation, and we're the 8th largest institution. I will tell you, I'm very proud and inspired, like I believe Maria, one of the other panelists, mentioned, by seeing you. You remind me of myself at your ages. And so if you don't get anything out of this conversation, I want you to learn to dream larger than you're dreaming today, and work on your dreams on a daily basis for them to come true. I never imagined being a guy who would have grown up in a small town of Eufaula, Alabama, a town of the size of about 13,000 people, actually running and being a chairman and CEO of a bank in Detroit, Michigan. And so I think we all know the history of Detroit relative to African Americans. And so I say that to say to you, I want you to dream big. Whatever life has put up on you at this point in time, I just want you to get from this conversation, or these conversations today, that you have a long runway in front of you. And if there's anything we can do for you on behalf of First Independence Bank, feel free to call on us. The last thing I'll say in my introductory remarks is that if you have not had anyone to talk to you about money on a personal level, I want you to find someone in your life who's willing to talk to you about money. In a capitalistic society, money is actually the lubricant that makes everything works. And so you need to learn about money. You need to learn about what it means to save, making good decisions early as it relates to money, such that you don't have regrets regarding your economic situation at any given point in time in your life. So I want to encourage you with that. But thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to speaking with you today.
Thank you so much for being here. That was really inspiring. And last, but obviously not least, we have our superintendent, Dr. Vidi.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It was great to see everyone's face this morning when we started. I am superintendent of DPSCD, proud superintendent, privileged, blessed superintendent of DPSCD. I think sometimes people wonder if I really mean that when I say it, considering all the challenges that come with running the school district, but I can't honestly think of a job that's more satisfying, more rewarding. I wake up every day not wondering why I'm going to work, because I have the honor and privilege of building, developing, redeveloping, and improving a school system that serves 50,000 children every day. I come from immigrant working class family. I grew up here in Metro Detroit, in Dearborn Heights and Inkster. It was actually athletics that was my ticket to college. I was a late bloomer when it came to academics. I thought, honestly, athletics first, academics secondly. But athletics opened the door for college. And then from there, I started to realize how important education was. I started to better understanding who I was and who I wasn't. And it started to open up more doors for me than athletics did. And for me, my journey to becoming an educator and eventually a superintendent was really thinking about what awakened me to, who I was, who my family was, our own struggles. And education ended up allowing me to recognize my voice. It empowered me to overcome the challenges that I grew up with regarding being dyslexic. I struggled in school as a learner. My mother and father separated when my mother raised me. And so the journey for me was one, how did I ended up empowering myself, but how can I empower others in the same way that led me to understand who I was and the voice. So moving forward for me was, how do I empower others? And I thought about law, medicine, and eventually I landed on education, because I felt that if we really fund traditional public education the way it should be, and we empower children the way we should in every school and every classroom every day, then every child has a God-given gift. And it's really the public school system that should allow students to understand and hone and refine that gift. And that happens for many students in isolation, but not at scale yet. You know, we can talk about many students, probably many of you are on that path to that empowerment and that awakening. But you also can name other students that you've grown up with who've been in class that isn't the case. So I wake up every day and go to work every day to try to make that a scaled experience of empowerment and realization. I started as a teacher in New York City in the Bronx. I was a dean of discipline in the Bronx. I ended up being a principal in Miami-Dade. I ended up being a state administrator in Florida, became superintendent in Jacksonville, Florida, and then was able to come back home here to lead the school district. So it's been an exciting past 3 years where we've increased enrollment, we've increased teacher salaries, reduced teacher salaries, raised student achievement, graduation rates have increased, but we are far from where we should be. And I just continue to work hard to make sure that every student is able to reach their God-given ability through DPSCD.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vidi, for your bio and everything, just everything that you do for our school district. We acknowledge and we know that it's not an easy job. And so the fact that this is your passion is really inspiring. So thank you. And thank you to all of our panelists, because the reason we asked you to be here is because you're inspiring. You inspire us, and you people are just amazing. So thank you again, like for the 6th time. But yes, let's hop right into the questions. So the way that we have this structured is that I'm going to ask each of our panelists a question directly, and then we're going to have questions where any of the panelists can jump in. So starting off, our first question is for Anika Goss. And the question for you is, how is the city going to change or contribute to change in low-income areas, so people see that there's more things to life than the violence that's portrayed of Detroit?
Yeah, I saw that when they passed out the questions yesterday, and it's a hard question, but a really, really good one. And I am not a psychic. I can only tell you what the trends are looking at. We are likely headed into another recession. And I think what everyone is really, really concerned about right now are the number of small businesses that have, and small businesses in our neighborhoods, which often are Black and Latino small businesses in low-income neighborhoods, as well as the number of people who are out of work right now. What I think is concerning for everyone is the impact it will have on our neighborhoods, because coupled with that is the unemployment checks have stopped and our rent, the rent restrictions and rent moratorium has also been released. So there are going to be a lot of people that are struggling even further than they were before. And I think what this time of pandemic and this time of protest and disruption has really shown us is that things are bad and they're about to get worse, but to believe that they were great beforehand is a complete blind spot that I think a lot of people really had. That there were inequities that existed, and what I mean by that is that there were people who were really struggling in Detroit just because they were in Detroit. And it appeared as though there are people who were doing a lot better than they actually were, because some people were doing better than others. So what I think, in order for us to get past it, which gives me a lot of optimism, is that I also believe that in disruption comes significant change. And I'm seeing a lot of that change at every level. We're seeing the corporate sector begin to work with and be really, really focused on not only, and I'm going to let Dr. Vidi talk about the school system, but not only on the school system and how to improve Detroit schools and improve the quality of life for all of our kids during this new change. Everybody is going to have to be online somehow, right? And not just kids, but adults too, in order to get a job, in order to maintain your business, in order to advance in this new economy post-change. You have to be you have to be technologically inclined. And you're starting to see the private sector become much more involved with that. The conversation that we're having with law enforcement and the public and the city, right, about water and basic stuff like lights and sidewalks and what our neighborhoods look like, those conversations are much more inclusive and engaging, building off the conversations that we had before, but now there's such a sense of urgency to keep people safe, and that really keeps me optimistic. So I think, unlike a lot of you wouldn't remember 10 years ago when we were going through, when the bottom fell out of the economy, we were all so desperate to make things right, to try to sort of fix the housing system when people were losing their homes during foreclosure. This time it feels much more coordinated, much more urgent, much more strategic and comprehensive than before, which gives me a lot of optimism. And I'll tell you why this is important for you all listening, because you think like, these are grown-up problems, this is not my problem. This is your problem, because change happens in these kind of 10-year increments. So add on 10 years to however you are right now, and you'll be in the middle of it. And so as much as we can be organized and as much as you can really understand what's happening now, you'll be able to understand how you can actually participate and what you're going to be able to contribute to in the future.
Thank you so much for that insight. I completely agree with everything you said. The new normal, it's something that's always scared me, but I feel like the new normal doesn't have to be all bad. We can learn from all the injustices we faced and make that new normal better than the old normal. So
That's right.
yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to pass it on to Takayla to ask our next question.
Hey, hi everyone. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties right now. So, okay. Our next question is for Marie Hocker. And the question is, how has COVID and the movement of racial justice affected Detroit at work and opportunities available to young people? And the next question is, are opportunities for young people to participate with the activism and community engagement?
Hi, Takayla. Thanks so much for your question. So as a result of COVID-19, GDYT certainly had to pivot. As you all know, GDYT is the City of Detroit's largest summer youth employment program. We train and employ 8,000 youth over the summer, so we had to make a major pivot to ensure that all 8,000 of our young people would be safe. So what we did was move to an online model, and not once during this pandemic did we ever consider canceling the program. Our solution was to ensure that we could still provide meaningful work experiences virtually for you all this year. And what we did was partner with key partners like the Life Leaders, as an example, to provide critical training and leadership and social skills, entrepreneurship, STEM, and hospitality. We also worked using an online platform called EDSI to give youth training in key sectors like manufacturing and IT, construction, and healthcare as well. And all of our youth were able to work online with their instructors and with employer partners in virtual meetings. And therefore, what they were able to gain was key skills within those specific industries and also build out their professional network, all while working from home. So regarding your question on the movement for racial justice, Takayla, I think it really magnified some of the existing economic disparities and lack of access to technology in our community that we know we already have. The movement really compelled our community leaders, I think, to step up in an even greater way to address those issues. As an example, in GDYT, we've received even more funding actually this year to help address these issues and ensure that all of our young people in the program will have access to economic opportunity. So the community really put their money where their mouth is and ensure that our youth would have that opportunity. We also had funders step up and provide laptops and internet access. And of course, Dr. Vidi could speak to that even more from the Connected Futures lens. So from a community engagement and activism standpoint, I think there are many opportunities for youth to continue to engage civically. You should look at getting involved in organizations like Citizens Detroit, which really works actively to increase civic participation throughout the Detroit community. And more importantly, I think in your day-to-day life, just ensure that you are being the change that you want to see every day in your own community.
Thank you so much for that. I never thought about it that way, how, these problems have always existed, but the pandemic in a way kind of forced city officials to acknowledge them and do something about it. That's actually really true. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, and maybe when we actually have some sense of normalcy again, maybe they'll remember what this pandemic taught us in that aspect. So yeah, absolutely. That's dope.
Thanks,
oh, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. Our next question is for Rico Razzo, and it is, can you give us an update on what neighborhood development has continued or been put on pause during COVID-19, and what additional community services will be implemented in low income and middle class families?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Just to give you guys a little background, when Mayor Mike Duggan came into office, his pitch was every neighborhood has a future. And the first couple of years of the administration, I was a district manager at the time over District 6, which covers pretty much all of Southwest Detroit up to Livernois 96, and then all the way south to the Lincoln Park, Ecorse, River Rouge border. And our main goal the first couple of years was just getting city services back up and running. So if you look at other cities that take things like lighting for granted, park maintenance for granted, trash pickup for granted, not having to deal with vacant homes, that was what we had to undertake the first couple of years, is just getting those city services up and running, and then being able to focus on development. So we had the LED lighting project. I believe it was around 60,000 LED lights that were put up all over the city. Trash was starting to be picked up on time. We were addressing illegal dumping. And we had to deal with 30,000 vacant homes and trying to figure out which ones we can save and auction through the land bank, which ones had to be demolished. And so we had some federal money to do that. To date, we've knocked down 14,000 vacant homes, and we still have a ways to go, but hopefully we'll get some more money next year to continue to rehab houses and also demolish the ones that can't be saved. But you look at other things like, you know, making sure that we have safe neighborhoods. So Chief Craig early on instituted the Neighborhood Police Officer Program, which created a great relationship with the police and the community. Dr. Vidi, I just want to say you're doing an excellent job on the school side. I think a lot of people don't understand that the mayor doesn't control the DPSCD. That is a separate entity, and Dr. Vidi, you're doing a great job. So flash forward to a couple years ago when we were really able to focus on development. I think one of the biggest pushes for the mayor was bringing jobs to the city. And just last year, you look at developments like the Fiat Chrysler expansion over on the east side, which is bringing up to 5,000 jobs. And we made sure that Detroiters had the first stab at that. We partner with Detroit Employment Solutions to do a bunch of hiring events all over the city. If any of you guys saw the news yesterday, you saw that there's a proposal for Amazon to come to the state fairgrounds over on 7 Mile and Woodward to bring another, 1,200 jobs. And then we're also focusing on streetscape improvements. So how can we improve major corridors throughout the city to bring small businesses and neighborhood businesses back to the city? So you look at areas like Livernois, the Avenue of Fashion, where there was a huge streetscape improvement that took out the median, expanded the sidewalk so that businesses could basically have outdoor seating. And then you look at Grand River right now, which is going through a streetscape improvement. I think over in Southwest Detroit, the little Bagley Strip in Mexican Town had a really nice streetscape improvement. So you're trying to improve these streetscapes so that businesses can open up. And just before COVID, I think there were about 13 Black-owned businesses on Livernois that opened within a matter of 5 or 6 months. And then you look at the Neighborhood Strategic Fund, where originally it started with 3 neighborhoods throughout the city. We had philanthropic and banks putting in millions of dollars to help some of the main corridors. And now that is up to 10 neighborhoods throughout the city of Detroit. So we have, a long way to go. Obviously, Anika alluded to the fact that we may be going through a recession. Right now, the city is running at a deficit with things like the casinos being closed. I mean, they opened back up to 15% capacity, but we're losing, since COVID shut everything down, we're losing $600,000 a day just from the casinos in revenue that goes towards the city. But with development, I also sit on the Brownfield Redevelopment Council, and we see a lot of developments coming through, whether it's condos being built, apartments being built, stores being built using tax abatements. And several of those projects have been put on hold due to funding and people losing money during COVID. But I think the mayor is doing, as good as he can to push forward with a lot of the development that can still take place. Obviously, construction was shut down for a time period during COVID. But we're trying to push through. And I think the number one thing, as you see with the mayor, is making sure that development still happens and we're bringing employment opportunities to Detroiters.
Thank you so much for that answer, Mr. Rico Razzo. It's good to know that, not everything is being shut down due to COVID. There are ways to pivot. And I actually have a follow-up question for you in regards to, I forgot the term that you used, but, redesigning the streetscapes. There was they fixed up the streets on Joy Road, and I was wondering if you were responsible for that or who was.
Yeah, so the city is doing about 100 miles of re-streetscaping a year. So we have money to do city roads, and I think some people don't understand the jurisdictions, but there are some roads that are owned by the state of Michigan, and then there's some roads that are owned by the county. So for example, you look at Outer Drive on the west side, that is owned by the county, and I believe they just rescaped that one last year or the year before. But Joy Road is definitely a city street. You look at McNichols right now up by the University of Detroit, McNichols and Livernois, there's a big streetscape improvement going on there with new bus shelters and bike lanes, really trying to activate that space as new businesses are going to be opening up on McNichols as well, which is right down the street from me. I live right by U of D, by way of Southwest Detroit. So, you know, it's exciting to see things still moving along during COVID. You know, I think one of the biggest things the mayor wanted to do was to get our general service department back up and running as soon as we could, to make sure that the parks and lots were being cut so that this tall grass and overgrowth wasn't really plaguing the city. So, you know, we're continuing to work in a safe manner during COVID, but I think everybody is eager to get everything back up and running. But obviously we want to do it in a safe way.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I actually did not know that, so that was really exciting to learn about. Also, I just want to acknowledge the time for everyone. We're scheduled to end at 9:45, but we are allowed to go 10 minutes over. I forgot to mention that we only have about 2 minutes for each person to answer their question, but you know, we're pivoting as we do during this time period, and I'm mentioning it now. So with that being said, we're going to move on to Dr. Vidi. And the question that we have for you is, can you, well, let me acknowledge that we at Life, we do know that you had a town hall yesterday and we were watching. I caught the last hour of it, but for the people who do not know about that, could you give us like a brief update on like the highlights of how school is gonna run this fall?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, with being an educator for 20 years, teacher, dean, principal, chief academic officer, et cetera, superintendent, I would say I've never faced something as challenging as reopening schools in the fall. It has been a very difficult process for all the right reasons. Anxiety is high, fear is high, and at the same time, there's this need to provide, I believe, options to parents and students during this pandemic at the same time. And it's difficult to balance all of that, especially when the reopening process, rightfully or wrongly, is being politicized. And so we're trying to do all this in a climate where we're receiving very little guidance at the federal or the state level to reopen schools. But the short of it is we want to empower parents and children to make the decision that they feel is best for them in the fall. For many of you and for many other students and families, the best decision is online, and we're much better situated in the fall than in the spring to offer online learning. So it's already been mentioned, but all of our students will have access or can have access to a free tablet that comes along with internet access. So that allows us just to overcome the perpetual digital divide that many of our families have faced. All of our curriculum will be accessible online. So whatever is being taught in class is also going to be taught online. We have a new platform called Schoology or Schoology, where the curriculum will be accessible, assignments will be given, assignments can be turned in that way. We'll still use Teams, as many of you know, which is the same format and structure of Zoom, where you'll see the teacher, and then there'll be conferencing time for students to work in small groups or independently. And our plan is to grade students this fall who are online. At the same time, we're going to offer right now face-to-face for those parents or students that need that option. As you know, all of our students and all of our families are not the same. They're all facing different challenges, from childcare to work demands and responsibilities, the ability to support students at home when they're learning. So we're trying to offer a differentiated approach to reopening, where students can also decide to go back to school face-to-face. Now, the learning environment will not look anything as it did before the pandemic, and nor should it. Students will have to wear masks. There will be temperature checks taken at the front door. We'll review symptoms of COVID at the entry point. There'll be training on COVID. We're expanding our contracting for custodians to clean the buildings more, hire more custodians. Buses will be cleaned after the rides. And right now we're only looking at 25 to maybe 30% of students returning face-to-face. So this means that class sizes will be anywhere from 5 to maybe 15 students. This allows social distancing to occur. You know, the images and photos that you're seeing coming out of Georgia of all these students being in the hallway at once without a mask will not happen. Because again, with the few number of students returning, we can distance students so that we're maintaining the best practices regarding COVID. In addition, we'll be contracting a nurse for every school this fall. So at a real high level, these are the things that we're going to do differently. There'll also be hand sanitizer in every classroom, wipes to wipe down keyboards and desks. In the end, we don't want to impose a decision on any student or any family. We want to empower you to make the decision that you think is best and meets your learning needs as we continue to work through the pandemic. If the state or the local health department says that it's unsafe to offer face-to-face, with right now they're not saying that. And if they do say it's unsafe, then obviously we'll move fully to online. And because we have the devices for students and internet access, and we've invested in the ability to have the curriculum online, we'll be much better situated this year than we will last year. So I'm sure people have questions. Ironically, at 10 o'clock, I'm going to get on another community or town hall meeting call. So you can hear even more details about our reopening plan, and you can find that on Twitter, or you can go to the DPSCD website to see the login for that conversation.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us that brief overview. We really appreciate that. I'm actually going to pass on the rest of our panel discussion to Takayla to ask Kenneth Kelly his question, and then we're going to have some group questions. So you take it away, Takayla.
Okay. The question for Kenneth Kelly is, what is First Independent Bank doing to support the community and the POC during COVID and first in general?
Thank you, Takayla, for the question. I'm gonna get to that, but let me do something that I think is important. Say, Faith, appreciate your leadership. What you're learning to do today is manage even adults on the timing of the 2 minutes. And that is a skill that I suggest that all of you learn to do, which is always articulate the rules of the game and how you manage through that. And I thought you did that very gingerly, but with the right level of force. So I'm 25 seconds. I measure things as an engineer, even though I'm a banker. So I've got 1 minute and 30 seconds to be off. So let me answer your question, Takayla. First Independence Bank was identified by the Secretary of Treasury as an essential business. So we had to stay open. If you can imagine what that means for our employees, we were, I would say in many cases, many people were scared. What does that mean to be open and have to deal with the public? We worked through that. We put up shields. We've done deep cleanings. We've done wipe downs, and many procedures that we used to do. We've completely changed those for the safety of our customers and for the safety of our employees. There was a period of time where we actually stopped taking customers in the lobby. So it was only drive-through only to mitigate the transfers of COVID-19. But that was just part of where we are. We are now fully back open. But what's most important is that I'll say the CARES Act, the PPP dollars, we were fully engaged in getting dollars out to customers. And in fact, we did to many non-customers who were not able to be served by some of the larger banks. So that was something that we've done to contribute to really the vitality of I would say, the community from a financial perspective. And we will try our best to continue to be available to, any customers as we deal with the upcoming, hopefully assistance that will be coming from the federal government. So I'm showing I'm about 1 minute, 53 seconds. So I'm going to end it there, but thank you for the question.
No, thank you. Okay, now this is the whole panel question. So any of you guys can answer. What are some obstacles that you've had to overcome to achieve a goal?
I'll answer that one. I think The biggest one that I would love to inspire each of you to have is confidence. The confidence of, Faith to step up and say what she just said about the 2 minutes a moment ago. Many times you would see yourself in a subservient role as a youth relative to all of these adults who are accomplished. That is something that I would inspire you. Now, that doesn't mean be arrogant. It doesn't mean, again, crossing the line, but just having the confidence to be able to state what is on your mind. I believe Anika made reference to that. About 10 years from now, you'll find yourself in a new era. Having that confidence is what I would suggest to you. So if there's anything that I could share with you is, regardless of where you come from, there may be opportunities where you might not feel you belong or you have the authority to speak up. I would suggest to you that all of us should have the confidence, the grounding, the wherewithal of knowing that when we bring something to the table, we bring it from a spirit of pureness. And so you're grounded in that to feel very confident in making your statement.
Thank you so much. We are living in wild times right now. How do I prepare for my future?
I'm happy to take a stab at that one. I would say that it's critically important to get quiet and take some time to get to know yourself. Understand exactly what it is that you want to accomplish, and then make a list of some key action steps that you need to take in order to achieve that particular goal. And it's going to take you getting quiet, taking some intimate time just with yourself and your own mind, particularly in these sort of wild times that we're in, to get that clarity.
I would just add too, I think it's important for all of you guys to find, a mentor, whether that's a family member or an older adult that has gone through a lot of the stuff we've gone through, to help navigate through that, especially during this time. We as adults don't have the answer for all of the questions and everything going on with our society right now, but I think it's very important for you guys to make sure that you have someone you can call every now and then, try to get some wisdom from, and help in your journey as you grow into young adults.
Yeah, I would say read. One thing, one obstacle that I felt that I continue to try to overcome is what Mr. Kelly referred to as confidence, believe it or not. Growing up in a working class immigrant home, you're isolated. Your view of the world is isolated. I remember growing up and, my world was Metro Detroit. I didn't see anything other than that. And so I would push all of you to read, because it is a cliche, but books do open up worlds that you may not be able to experience right now. Different perspectives. I'd also say challenge yourself. You're growing up in a home, you're growing up in a community with one view, but how do you expand that? And sometimes when you challenge those views, you actually strengthen your core values. And so what is instinctively true to you, which is important, and your truth can actually become honed by challenging yourself to other opinions. I'd also say strengthen your vocabulary. One thing that was important in my development as a dyslexic and growing up where folks spoke different languages was just to be the ability to articulate what I felt, what I was passionate about. So reading expanded my vocabulary, but I became obsessed with learning words that I didn't hear in my home. So studying how to pronounce words, how to write. I wrote it in a journal. And that allowed me to develop the vocabulary that I wanted to express myself, to advocate for myself and advocate for others. And I would say all of you are naturally intelligent. All of you have had experiences that I think make you even more competitive and better than those outside of the city. But you have to hone your voice. And that comes through reading and writing, so that when you go out in the world, you don't feel intimidated or you question what you say or how people perceive you, because your words are your weapons. Your words are your shield. And that's what I've learned. And I would share that to all of you, is just push yourself to read and think. And then lastly, I agree try to meet different people. Push yourself outside of those in your circle. Don't surround yourself with those that don't have the same goals of you, but be willing to hear the different side. It'll actually hone your own core values.
I can add, I know we're almost, you have another question. I can wait to the next question.
No, you can go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say that I also think it's really, really important for you to find your passion, what excites you, and really get focused on that. I was at we had a panel yesterday for young people to talk about economic equity. And there was a woman, she was like a 10th grader, it was a girl who became really, really focused on the vacant lots in her neighborhood. And that was really important to her. She was very passionate about that and trying to figure out what to do about that. She was tired of seeing the vacant lots in her neighborhood. She wanted to do something about it. She and her grandmother started gardening, and that passion for the environment, for doing something about blight, that will carry her so far. So whatever your passion is, I would find it, hone it, learn about it, understand it, and use it, because that's what will guide you in the future.
I would like to tag on to this because Dr. Vidi has kind of really rounded out my recent commencement speech I gave on Friday. He talked about challenging. So confidence is a foundation, but challenging yourselves. But the outcome of that is really character. Who are you? And I would ask you to ask yourselves, who are you? It's a little bit in what Anika just said, what are your passions? But you need that because at the ages that you are right now, a split-second decision of a yes or no based on peer pressure could find you down one path or can find you down another path. And you've got to be very grounded in who you are such that a peer pressure decision doesn't find you in a position that you don't want to be in. And so when I think about it, it's the 3 C's for me. It's confidence, it is challenging yourself, and it's most importantly character, because that's an outcome of kind of doing the work, doing the vocabulary, understanding etymology, and understanding how to really engage with others across a very broad spectrum and opening yourselves to others. So I'd like to just kind of add that as a fine point to each of you.
Thank you so much to everyone on our panel, and everyone who sat here and listened and gained this knowledge, took the initiative to come to this event. We worked really hard on it. It was very stressful, but I'm glad we did it. That's actually all the time we have for questions today. So thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to everyone. And all right, I'll hand it back to Mario.